City of Cape Town has lifted the precautionary boil notice for parts of Cape Town. It's about boiling your water before you drink it. The latest tests prove that the water is now safe to drink. Let's get the latest, joined by Dr. Zahid Badroodien, the MMC for Water and Sanitation of Cape Town. Doctor, good evening to you. Good to have you with us on eNCA as always. Just take us through how we got to this point. What are the tests shown us?
Yes, so the most important part of this process to get to where we were was to make sure that we isolated the water treatment plant as soon as possible, which was done. We also then made sure to introduce new water source into the distribution network to flush out the discolored water from that particular part of the city, which we also then did. So our colleagues in the scientific services branch, the environmental health colleagues, do strategic testing along this particular network, which showed them that there was no more compromised water in that particular part of the distribution network. It showed that there was no acute indicator of pollutants, if you will, E. coli, coliform bacteria, and also shows a good amount of free chlorine in the particular water, which meant that it is safe to drink. And thankfully, we were able to lift the precautionary boil notice early yesterday evening.
Just remind us, for those who don't know the story, what led to this notice being put into place in the first time? As I see a lot of areas just south of the N2 were very badly affected. Help me understand technically what actually happened.
So the water treatment process at the Fora water treatment plant, which is one of our bigger water treatment plants in the city, was affected by a number of load shedding incidents that caused a compromised process during the sedimentation process of the water treatment process at the plant. This meant then that part of the chemical makeup of the end product, being the end water that reaches the home, didn't meet the necessary standard, and for that reason we needed to then shut the supply and clean up that particular water plant, which is currently being done at the moment. I do know also from monitoring commentary and discussions on social media that there was some confusion around what had happened, and I want to clarify that there at no stage was any pollution or contamination, if you will, of this water supply or sewage, which was the cause. It simply was discoloration of the water and an inability to purify the water to the standards by removing the amount of iron in this instance to the necessary level.
I imagine as well that residents in Cape Town, that even though you've lifted the boil notice, there could be some residual discoloration of water. For example, I would imagine geysers or piping systems that might take a couple of hours for it to clear up as well. What do you tell those people if they pick up that kind of water in their households? What should they do?
Correct. So we've been appealing to our residents who've limited their usage because of our advisory notice to flush their geysers and their taps, their domestic supply essentially, so that the discolored water then may exit the particular domestic system, and then to reintroduce the normal colored or undiscolored water into their homes, which is safe to drink. It's an easy process. You just run the water out, and obviously it then fills with the correct water supply that we've reintroduced into the system. But I must emphasize that our water treatment plants and our wastewater treatment works are particularly vulnerable to load shedding. Anything above stage 2 has a tremendous impact. All of these plants do have generators. Our Fora water treatment plant has 2 generators, but the particular process that was affected is energy intensive and so can't be powered by generators. We've written to Eskom for them to consider excluding us from load shedding. They've come back to say they need more information, and so we'll take that back to them, and hopefully with the understanding our plants will be excluded.
And you can hear Dr. Badroodien is well squared in media. You knew I was going to ask him about how do we prevent this going forward. You beat me to it, Dr. Zahid Badroodien. Always good to have you with us on eNCA. Appreciate you almost doing my job for me. The MMC for Water and Sanitation of Cape Town. All right, so Cape Town, it's safe to drink your water. The boiling notice has been lifted, but as the good doctor says, if you notice some discoloring in the water in your household, maybe just let the tap run for a little bit, especially the water coming out of geysers. It might have a slight discoloration for a few more hours, but it should be safe to drink.